This meeting to order. All right, we have, was it properly posted?
Yes.
All right, we have a 20-point agenda. Is that correct with the agenda? I got the amended one right. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Carol,
Second.
second by Turk.
We only have 3 people. There's a fourth person. Yeah.
One, oh, I was thinking there was 4. You're right. Never mind, we can't call this meeting to order yet. I'll start calling.
I withdraw my second.
Yes. Sorry, I was, there's everybody's
Yep.
sitting at the table. It's okay so far. We have 4, one's online. Okay, we now have 4 people, so I'm going to officially call this meeting to order. It was properly posted. Am I gonna echo still?
Yes.
Are we good now? Okay. Technical difficulties. All right, so now I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Mr. Carroll? Mr. Turk, would you like to second?
Second, yes.
Yes, okay. All right. Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Approval of the November 6th, 2023 minutes. Someone like to make a motion? Motion by Fleming. Second by Carol. Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes are approved. That brings us to zoning petitions. First one up is the Burns petition.
Yeah, I can give a brief update. Mike Burns's house had burned down and he came in to apply for a permit. They had bought it on land contract. At the time it wasn't rezoned, so now we're kind of just doing a catch up.
So we're,
You've owned it for since 2008. 90. Okay, yeah. So now he needs it rezoned to build.
so it's 18.38 acres and we're just bringing the zoning into compliance with street. Okay. Does anyone from the committee have questions? Actually, let's get this on the table for discussion. Would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right, motion by Turk, second by Fleming. All right, discussion. Any questions? Mr. Carroll.
So the house is there, this is just a matter of getting the zoning squared away.
House is not there. It burned down last spring?
March.
March, last spring. So you'll be rebuilding?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And we're just getting the zoning into compliance. You've lived there since 1990, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, they lived there since 1990 and it apparently wasn't zoned properly or something. All right, any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, you have your approval. Thank you for coming in. All right,
We're done.
that brings us to, you don't have to be at the board meeting though.
Thank you very much.
All right, that brings us to the Koenig, is that how you say it?
Koenig.
Koenig Industries petition. Going to give a little background and what?
Put it on the floor.
She can give the background first and then we'll, yeah. Thank you for
So the
reminding.
Koenigs own a large bunch of land. And they're going to be selling it, but they're selling this part, I believe, to a hired somebody that worked for them.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So Ellen is the wife of a business partner. She's lived there for many, many years. They're trying to make sure she can stay in her house, even though the remainder of the farm is going to be sold. So they're separating the 3 acres so she can stay there.
And you're selling the rest of the property as one?
Yes.
Large.
Yeah. It'll be about 720 acres.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get this on the floor for discussion. Motion by Fleming, second by Carol. Okay, so I don't know if all of you saw in there that there was, and I'll read it for you too. So Robert Lambert is a neighbor of your property apparently, As a longtime property owner in Richland County, any change from agricultural to ag residential that is adjacent to my property is very alarming, and I strongly object to this proposal from Koenig Industries. Willow Valley is a rich agricultural area and should remain that way. I'm an independent farm owner, and converting agricultural to agricultural, I think he means residential, is a permanent decision that will affect the valley and set stage for additional development in the area. Unfortunately, I'm out of the country in an area with no reliable internet and unable to attend. However, I appreciate your careful consideration. So I read that, and based on what you just said, you're selling there's already the house there. This is not going to be
Yeah.
redeveloped into anything different than it already is, correct?
Correct, and there's like maybe an acre and a half of pasture, but she's not changing. It's just, we had to hit those thresholds for the minimum acreage, which is why it's on.
Right.
But nothing is changing.
And then you're just selling the
Yeah.
rest of the 700.
Yep, we're owning the home that she was living in, and now she's gonna, but nothing changes, agriculture wise. It's all
What it
gonna
is.
keep running the exact same way it is.
Okay. Mr.
He also made a commented that it would be a permanent thing, and it's not necessarily permanent. I mean, it could be rezoned back later if for some reason something happened in the house or they didn't want a residence there, it could be rezoned back, correct?
I mean, yeah, you can
Right.
change any zoning at any time if it comes before the committee.
Right, so my point is, it's not necessarily permanent, like he did state there.
Well, and what I'm thinking is it's not changing anything. The valley, it's already existing, and
Right, it's not like they're.
We're not adding any new homes, we're not changing
anything, yeah,
just how it's mapped, so we can have approval.
right. Well, and so that she can remain.
Yeah,
as herself.
yep.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any other questions? Mr. Carroll?
I just wondered if they had reached out to Robert and talked about it.
I had no idea there was any concern.
He just
over
called
it.
us, and he's in Africa.
Oh, lucky.
Because I tried to get him to log in.
Yeah.
And he said it has.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think if he calls back, just explain to him that you're just letting the person live there who's lived there forever, and so that the rest can be sold as it is.
Mhm.
I mean, the new owners could do something different with that land if they choose, but that's not our place to say whether they can or cannot.
I think
Yeah.
they bought it to be remain.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, you have your approval. Thank you. That brings us to Ithaca Township. Ed.
What this is Stacy. Ed Mary Walden built a house on acreage, it's residential. And her father passed away about a year ago, and they got 4 acres from her dad's land, which was sold agriculture. We have to get that out of the way. And there was a little strip along the road that belonged to Wheatfield Properties, and that was put deeded to Weldon's a while back, so that needs to be rezoned as well. They were putting everything together and making it one zoning in ag residential, so they have 5 acres. That's what Ithaca was like.
All right, before we start asking questions, would you like to get some,
Make a motion.
right, motion by Fleming? Oh, what
I'll
happened?
second.
Oh, second by Turk. All right, discussion. Anyone have any questions?
I came in late. Have we already gone over the Mike and Bev Burns property?
We have, yeah.
I missed it. What was the outcome?
We approved the rezoning.
Okay, is there any input that I can still give?
Who are we speaking to?
This is Matt Lambert representing Robert Lambert, my father, who's a property owner on 58 and K.
Oh, so so that property is not the Burns one, that's the Koenig Industries ones, and we also approved that one.
Okay, and that was also approved on a
It was,
map.
so
On a map, how close in proximity to the property line of the farm on 58 and K is it?
so this is the existing house and residence and buildings that are already on that Koenig Industry properties.
So it's not adding new construction to that
It
area?
is not, no, it's simply breaking off the house and those buildings so that the person that's lived there for many years can continue to live there while they sell the other 700+ acres.
Okay, I was under the impression it may be new construction, but if it's everything
No.
existing, I'm okay.
It's not. Yep, no, it's not new construction. That's not what they asked us for today.
Amazing, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, so you don't have to worry about contacting them. I'm assuming he'll let them know. All right, so we're still talking, sorry, we got interrupted there about Ithaca Township. Does anyone have any questions on the Ithaca Township? You were going to say something, Mr. Carroll.
I'm unclear where we're at in our agenda.
So it's item number 6.
Ithaca Township Weldon rezone. You have to do that one separately because Ithaca has their own
Their
zoning.
own zoning. So if you go to the one that says ordinance number 2023-02, an ordinance to amend zoning code and map of the town of Ithaca.
Yeah, as well as Rockford, that's their own zoning. We have to come to the county zoning committee to get it passed on the county board.
Right. And you've already. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So really, you're just giving our blessing to send it on to the board. While we're waiting on Steve, does anyone else have any other questions on this petition?
See in the form where the request.
No, it doesn't, theirs is different. Theirs is, Steve, all it is this. They don't have the form like we do.
It's the ordinance we're passing on.
That's right after the Koenig one.
I'm just looking for. Help me out.
They don't have the acreage on there.
It's on the,
It's in the ordinance, isn't it?
no, I don't think it is.
It's on the CSM,
It's on the CSM. Yeah.
follows ordinance.
It's 5.7 big.
Has to be 5 or more to be in this. And they'll be done.
This was one of them that like this.
It is. Yep.
Fine.
Yep. No, I know, me too. I was like, and then I remembered that they have their own zoning and they're just essentially passing through our county. Okay, I'm gonna call the question then. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Have your approval. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll take you. Yep. Okay, so next we're up to the wildlife damage program.
All right,
You're gonna take it away, right?
I'm sure gonna try. We have two things we have to get established today. One is the commodity prices. You should have received a sheet with the prices that, these are the local prices as of a few weeks ago at the local markets. So it's comparable to what farmers would be getting for the crops they lost. So we're establishing a price to be paying the farmers for the crops that they lost.
All right, I'm gonna be paused for 1 second. Committee, you're gonna need to go into your email and into the email from Kathy this morning because that what he's talking about did not make it into this packet that's online.
It's weird, I'm online.
It's online now.
Is it? Because it's not on mine. I'm not seeing it anywhere.
That happened to you the
It
last.
did. This is so bizarre.
Oh, here. Oh,
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't in the one I was just looking at. So strange. So strange. Okay, go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
So you have the right to change any price that you don't feel is, what you think it should be. These are just a recommendation to you that, I got from the local markets. So that's where we start from. You have to make a decision on the prices you would like for that.
Okay. I think you can hear. It's at the wall, I believe.
It's too noisy.
Okay, that's fine.
It's warming up in here.
Yeah, it's finally warmed up.
It's much better.
Okay, so you got these prices from where?
These are from local markets.
Local
This is
markets.
like in Boscobel and on the river,
Right.
local to where our farmers will be taking.
Okay. I mean, to me, that seems like a logical way to price it.
Right, that's
Take the local commodities,
That's what
not
we've done
some
for
national.
years, is trying to make it
Yeah.
match what the farmer would be getting in our area.
So
They
does
were sold.
anyone have any objection to using the local pricing that we would set? Okay, so So we need to agree to the prices and then agree to a date, right?
Yeah, so first,
That, well, we needed
It's
the
separate.
prices and then we'll do a date of when that 80%.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve the prices as listed in our. I can't see that.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second.
Question,
Yes.
do we not get, damage requests for any other crops then?
This is all we have in, for this year in Richland County. These are the ones that I've appraised already. So,
they have to call him, so
right.
they have to call him.
The farmer does. Yeah,
Right.
it's there. So I just refreshed my screen and now it's there. So you can have this back. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have the prices approved. I will be so glad when our iPads are uploading again. This is such a pain.
Me too.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda for the deer damage is we need the suggested date when 80% of the crops have been harvested in Richland County. This is designed so that anyone who decides that they were going to leave their crops in the fields or had issues getting them out, that they can't call me in March or April after the wildlife has cleaned everything out and say, now I need a payment. And so what we do is we've established a rule that when 80% of the crop is out of the, it's been harvested in the county, then anyone calling in after that date is not eligible because they've used that as their own overwinter storage and not harvested it in a manner
Right.
such that would have saved it. And for what basically, for me, it needs to be any date after the 20th of October. In the past, our tradition has been pretty close to Thanksgiving. I'm pretty sure we're past that threshold now as well. So it's whatever date you want to choose in that realm.
So Richland County is at 80%?
Yes.
I'm sure it's past 80%. I would think probably pretty close to November 1st it would have been this year.
Okay.
So Kent and I talked in the office and we were talking, you know, like anytime after November 6th, like say November 6th or later would be.
Yeah. So you can pick whatever date you want to, and that will be our established date.
And we've traditionally been closer to Thanksgiving,
Correct.
so
Our standard has been pretty close to
to
that.
Thanksgiving. So I mean, I would be comfortable just.
What was the date for last year?
Last year, I think we ended up doing it, that one was a little bit late. I think we did it December 1st.
All depends on weather and.
The weather conditions had changed last year.
I mean, we just need to pick a date.
Been a pretty dry fall.
It has been.
Yeah, it's been real good.
I would push it to Thanksgiving.
So like November 15th?
Sure.
Someone want to make a motion for a date?
I'll say as a farmer, next farmer, when it's going to be early. A lot of people are-
No,
Well, yeah, but this is just for this year.
This is just for this year.
Just for
everything
this year.
like last year was December.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I have a motion for November 15th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Fleming. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We have it done. I need to sign something. in this
Nope,
one?
we're
Not
all
this
good on
one?
that. The stuff was signed last month when you weren't here.
Okay. Sounds good.
So if there's no more questions, then I will be on my way.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
All right, so that brings us to discussion and possible action on wording of RV campers in an ag residential district.
I believe I put the new language in your folder.
Did.
And uploaded.
Is there?
I just cleaned it up. Mike Wendell reviewed it, changed a couple words, and he thought it looked acceptable. Had no other comments.
So I still struggle with this as to why we care. I mean, the reason I would care is if we would put language in here about making sure that they can keep it there, but they have to make sure they have a way to empty their septic, or, you know, it has to be, their sanitation has to be legal. They can't be dumping on the ground, obviously.
And my guess is the reason it's in there is that zone townships don't want old campers sitting around. And I think we've discussed a little bit in the last meeting that campers now are built in an environment where they have to meet the UDC codes before leaving the building. It wasn't always like that, and I don't know when that, I didn't even look the date to see when that went into effect, but I think they just don't want dilapidated campers sitting.
It's still, my question, I'll let you go in a second, because you're probably gonna maybe so, but if we're gonna, why are we picking on campers? There's all sorts of stuff parked all over the county. So why are we only caring about campers, is my question. Yes.
I think this came up just because there was an incident that there was a complaint or something about a camper, and so that kind
That
of.
was on public land, though. That was in a campground, wasn't it?
It was on
Oh, yeah.
privately owned.
Oh, the private, that guy.
I think that's just where this whole discussion came up of, do we need to make changes? You know, that's where things got reviewed.
And I think the discussion then was, what is temporary, and we went round.
That's where it started.
Round,
Right.
yeah, what is temporary,
Right,
and what do
But
you
I'm-
consider temporary?
yeah. But I'm questioning the reason why it's there at all. So Mr., yes, Carol.
So the way I'm reading it, the wording sounds like if I just have a camper on my property, not living in it, it's just parked there, that I need a permit.
If you live in ag residential, it's exactly what it says, and I don't
I
understand
don't
that.
understand that either. Is that, and are we saying that's the way it is in all the other zones?
Ag forestry, apparently there's no zoning for that. It's only ag residential.
Yeah, so you just need the permit in ag residential, res 1 and res 2, you have to keep it out of sight, you can't use it for living. Ag forest, I believe that also may say you can't use it for living and on a permanent basis, but you can leave it in ag forest and not remove it.
To me, the key is whether you're living in it. I mean, if you're living in it, then I worry about the sanitation.
Right.
And how long it's gonna be lived in.
Well, and I think that's what this is leading to, is if you're.
It should be
living-
temporary.
Yeah.
Defining the temporary, that's where, yeah.
The way it's worded, to me, it reads like whether you're living in it or not, you need a permit, and I can't believe that's correct.
Parking permit,
Ag res.
parking permit, right?
Permit is required.
Well, yeah, that's what the ordinance says. We're not adding it, we're just rewording it because of someone that was living in a camper, using a bucket for sanitary disposal. And didn't get his permit either.
What are they doing for heat?
Well, last time I talked to him, because he had a soil test done, they were going to have it out by December 1st. Otherwise, no idea, probably refilling their little tanks.
I just was wondering about safety.
I know their water was dumping to the ground.
You see, that concerns me. That part is, to me, that's a much bigger issue than whether we care if they park a camper or not.
To me, the wording should describe the issue. In other words, a suitable disposal of the sanitary has to be part of utilizing it to live in. And if it's not, you can't do it.
I mean, and that should be true in any of the, I mean, if you're not living in it, then you don't need to worry about it.
Right. I'm just saying it doesn't.
But if it's just parked,
And so I think in the ag res district, they're allowing you to live in it, but not full-time is what they're trying to.
who's they? That's us, right?
Us is
Yeah.
the ordinance.
They is us, yeah.
The current ordinance in ag res says you can live in it, but doesn't address how their sanitation.
No.
is dealt with.
So the sanitation part is in the definitions where a camper cannot be hooked up to a septic full-time.
So you can't hook it up to your private septic. You'd have to take it somewhere or have a slurry truck.
So we need wording to that effect in here too, is what I'm saying.
Well, so then you have to look at the definitions for campers, so it kind of, you have to look back at the definitions for that instead of putting it in both places.
Agreed.
Maybe we need to see the whole ordinance, part of the I mean, it's not all the ordinances with all the things we changed, but the whole section of what we're
So-
talking about.
So like the part if somebody called in and had a camper in ag res, what all would I look at, like the definition?
Yeah. I think maybe we need to have more information so we can get a full picture.
Because they've got to have it out by December 1st anyway, so we're really.
Right, at this point, we're not,
Right, yeah.
this time, yeah, we won't come into play until they want to move back
I'll
into
bring
it.
back the definition.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, I feel like I need to understand more of the whole picture.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
enforcement then too. Whose responsibility is enforcement going to be and how are we
well,
going?
it's our ordinance.
Correct.
So who enforces our ordinance is, goes through,
The ordinance gives us us a choice of either the district attorney or court counsel.
because it is defined in the,
Yes.
I do remember reading that part of it, that it's, how our enforcement is defined.
Okay. Because that would be my next concern, I guess, is, if it's reported, then who has to go out, who has to look at it, and what is our
Doesn't the sheriff
responsibility?
get involved if they have to go out and,
No.
no, just you?
Because our ordinance also says we can be allowed on the property at any time.
Oh, right.
for inspection.
I read that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
You had mentioned for the residential that if they can have a camper on there, and this is not talking about living in it, just having a camper, but it has to be out of sight.
It has to be open.
So somebody couldn't just park it in their driveway, like over winter, they'd have to store it at somebody
Pay to
else's
store it?
property or.
Yeah. That's the way the definition reads. Out of sight could be behind your shed. I think it's a little, when you only have an acre, it's kind of hard to get it out of sight.
It seems, this whole thing seems,
Yeah, to me that seems,
this is why people don't want to live here.
So, because some people don't care if the camper sits outside me, I want mine inside so it doesn't get out back street, but.
and so this is for the entire county, obviously.
Yes. And zone townships.
So 12, no, 14,
So
12.
Well, because there's three that are zoned their own,
Two others on it.
and two that are unzoned completely, right?
But it does count Vita Vista, which is last time in this discussion, I talked about campers that were just parked. They are not out of sight.
they were excessive, they have 3 of them.
And they have 3 large ones and they kind of block the view of an intersection.
Well, that's a safety issue. So
That's a safety issue.
Yeah, that's a different, I mean, that's,
Right. So my question is then according to this ordinance, then that's would be court counsel or the district attorney. Okay.
yeah, I think we need to just, let's revisit this
do
with,
that, I think.
with the whole section of whatever you would look at if someone asked you this question, whatever sections you would be looking at.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're not gonna take any action on that, but we'll come back next month. All right, that brings us to the office system tech position update.
Okay, so we had 12 applicants,
Oh, that's amazing.
which was very exciting. And so Kathy and I reviewed applicants this morning and we've narrowed it down to 4. So I've sent you some dates.
Okay.
And so we'll be hoping to conduct interviews next week.
Yay.
Yes, it's very exciting. I mean, some really good applicants.
And is Tammy's last day Friday?
So we, if anyone wants to come down, I'm gonna have cupcakes all day. I'm gonna say goodbye to her.
I'll be here on Friday for a meeting too, so I'll definitely.
She didn't want anything else, so.
That doesn't surprise me. Then she has gone and written down like kind of and showing people where stuff is and how to
Oh,
find
we
it.
put all this stuff, since we moved, we had to move the stuff to the shared drive at our other old building, so we just kept the stuff in the shared drive so that.
You can all see it. Okay, all right, well, that's good news, right? Okay, that brings us to Land Conservation Zoning Department reorganization discussion and possible action. So I don't know if you guys saw, I did put in here, we've looked at this before, so I just put it back in the packet. The yellow are the ones that are pretty close in population to us. That also, well, some of them have county administrators, some of them have administrative coordinators. I just put all the information that's in there. I really just put it back in here so that you can remind yourself that there's a lot of, like, every county does it a little different. One thing I think of note, though, is that there's a lot of GIS positions in a lot of, even small counties with GIS positions. So I do think that we want to be, when you going into the 2025 budget process next year, I think we need to seriously consider a full-time GIS person. There's just so, I mean, the way that technology and everything is moving, the mapping part is just, the mapping piece has become integral to so many different departments within our county. So that just, as I was looking through this and looking at all the different GIS positions, and they're in all different offices. I mean, sometimes you see them in zoning, sometimes you see them in even conservation when they're combined. Sometimes you see them in land use and planning. Sometimes you see them
911.
Oh, yeah, they're just all over the place. I mean, obviously each county does what works for it. So I mean, I just wanted to, this really just reiterates what I said last month, which was every county does it a little bit different. So we just need to decide how we want to do it. Now, we did also get the job descriptions for all of the positions within zoning and land conservation. When I read through them, the one thing that struck me was the only position, not the only position, but between the zoning administrator position and the land conservationist position, Kathy's position requires, you know, a degree, a 4-year degree, bachelor's degree, I think it even specifies, yeah. The zoning one had to have POUTs, which is challenging from what I understand. It's also a challenging test to take. But it's not a degree. I mean, so, you know, so in my mind, as I was going through all of this, it did seem logical that the county conservationists with the degrees would make some more sense, but that doesn't mean we have to do it that way. I did talk to a whole group of county conservationists a month ago and asked their thoughts because I was talking with 7 counties. How many is in the Southwest? In our southern 11 counties. I think there was 6 different counties there. And of the 6 counties, 3 of them had combined their land and zoning. And really the main message that they had for me was it really depends on the person. You want to make sure that if it's a zoning person, that they truly understand all of the complex rules and regulations that have to do with land conservation and vice versa. You know, you really need someone who's willing to be, to place priorities, you know, not just favor one department over the other, but to really have an even priorities as far as land conservation is important, but zoning is also important and vice versa. So that's what I learned in the last month. I do think though that we should try to come to some sort of decision sooner rather than later, because it does feel like that department has been in limbo. Both departments have been in limbo for too long. And it would be good if we could make a decision and move forward. And then I did speak with Kathy. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit. I just asked her straight out, are you interested in overseeing? Or would you rather just back off and, you know, we would go the other direction? So I don't know if you want to talk briefly.
I think sometime it's easier. I would if it came down to it. I mean, I don't have a problem. The big thing is I would need to get my POUTs. And I talked to Cheryl a little bit about that. I think, how do I want to say this?
Wait, just ask a question. Why do you think you need to have your POUTs just to be?
Well, I didn't, you know, because it's a requirement.
I'm assuming we would hire a zoning administrator or someone, or are we thinking that zoning would just, that's another question, is how many positions are you even thinking that we'll have?
Well, I mean, by the looks of what was here, you know, we could use the zoning rather than an assistant zoning, a zoning technician to handle our zoning information. And then Kathy as the department head then, really. And then eventually going into the next budget season, if GIS were something that we wanted to wrap in, because too, I mean, I can tell you, we have a couple of candidates in here for the tech position that have GIS and some of the other programs that Kathy was pretty excited about. So we have some capabilities coming in too that I think would be an asset to, you know, facilitating the integration. Yeah. So that's exciting.
So if you didn't have to do POUTs, I mean, would that free up most of your angst as far as?
I think so. I tried it once and didn't have, because this was years ago before Mike was hired. They were talking and Harry was retiring. So that I did try, and it's different now than it was then, but.
It took me 3 times to pass it.
I mean, I would, if needed to be, I would. As far as the other, I think the biggest issue for the land conservation side of it is there's just working with all these agencies and all these different programs. I mean, you've seen what we've got for programs from just the land conservation part, not counting all the stuff with zoning. So, and I picked up a few things by sitting next to, listening to Cheryl, you know, as far as things that are going on. And I've been here long enough, I know a little bit about the zoning part, not exactly everything, but, you know, so I guess my biggest angst was feeling comfortable and not, learning the zoning part wouldn't be hard, it'd be the post stuff. Sanitary, that makes me a little nervous, but.
And I guess I wouldn't envision if Cheryl has that, I wouldn't see why we would
Would
need
need it.
secondary.
I mean, other than when she's gone, it can't happen, but I don't know. How big a deal is it? Like, is there times when if you're gone, like I suppose in the spring, you said things get kind of crazy.
So right now we're really ramping down. There's still some soil tests once in a great while. And septic installation's pretty much done like as of last week. It'll start ramping up as soon as the road bans go off in the spring.
And so do you think having only one person with POUTS certification is doable, or is that crazy, or is it good? Is it okay?
My thoughts is you really need to, like I was gone one time and somebody really had to have their permit approved and Tammy's like, well, can I sign it? And I'm like, no, the state monitors, you know, all of that when they come. So I'm like, no, they're just
Yeah.
gonna have to wait, get their,
That's on the post, not the soil test.
that was it was a pulse.
Okay.
So if we were able to get the technician health certified though, on the
Right.
systems tech, and with some of the background here that we have on a couple of these candidates. that's
Maybe
a
they
possibility.
would.
Don't you think,
So-
Kathy?
Then you'll have to rewrite your job description.
We'd have to add it into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, that's something to keep in mind. Probably having two people with POUTS certification is not a bad thing. It would
Because
be-
that day, as soon as we came in, I'm like, and
Right.
was it
Yeah.
fine? And we're like,
Yeah, and I mean, and obviously you need to be able to take a day off, so.
Or she could take 2 weeks off from that one. Oh, I'm serious.
No,
No,
but-
I just go to Europe.
I'm just trying to use it now.
Yeah, so that's something we just need to kind of keep in the back of our minds. Mr. Carroll?
Back to the GIS question. Now, not long ago, we couldn't find one.
Well, so that was because the GIS position had the POUTS thing attached to it.
Right, so what I'm asking is, if we think at some point we want to add back the GIS position, what else, or what would their role be if we already have someone else with backup house?
They would be strictly doing GIS.
And then I'm sure you could get applicants.
there's,
Yes.
Oh, they got like 40 applicants for the GIS position and something.
It was in time when it just like.
because you had to have the
House.
house, the private
So
on-site.
it was half of the job was sanitation.
That was bigger.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, mapping people don't tend to, they like mapping, they don't want to learn.
They usually don't have
Sanitation.
both.
Yeah.
That was just a fluke because we happened to make Lynn do GIS. She was a sanitation person that we made do GIS, right?
She was in my position and then went as the assistant administrator. And then I think, the GIS started.
And she just took it on.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that person could do that I know of that would be.
I could think of a whole bunch of things that a GIS person could do that would be so valuable.
For many, lots of departments.
Very, very valuable.
Oh, a lot of different departments,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah.
It could be huge.
Okay, so what's the next step? Do we think that we could come up, us, whatever, could come up with some kind of proposal that we might approve?
Well, from what I'm hearing today, it's the wishes of the committee to have the land conservationist in the department head role and then the others in support roles, essentially.
Do you guys, I mean, I said that, but I don't know, do you guys agree as far as the training and requirements? That the conservationist has higher levels of training and requirements, that it would make sense that they would then be department head?
If you have to have a single person, then yeah, that makes more sense.
I mean, I don't expect that you are the conservation, so I'll just use you. I don't expect that Kathy is gonna be, in the zoning office telling Cheryl what to do every minute of the day, because Cheryl knows zoning well. But obviously you'll have to have knowledge and background so that if there's vacancies and whatever that, as far as succession and things like that, that there's people able to cover and whatever. So yes, okay, I just wanted to make sure everyone was in agreement. Supervisor Turk, do you have any comments?
No, I've been listening to the discussion here and I'm in agreement.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad that that the two departments have been in such disarray before. Since we made you move and then, you know, it's just been a lot. So it'd be nice if we could figure this out and have some consistency and.
And I think it'll be nice having this new person, whoever it is, to take some of the pressure off of Cheryl as far as
Oh, for sure.
getting data entry and getting her stuff. And hopefully within the next 6 months or so, be able to help answer some of the zoning questions that she gets 3 or 4 times a day. Just answering the dang phone, I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that will help considerably. It would be good to lighten the load. All right, any other discussion or questions on that? All right, so let's move to the 2024 meeting schedule.
So we put that back in your folder. We could not find any approval at county board where it went to Mondays. So we put it back to Tuesdays.
It is one.
So it was discovered as we were going through that the board rules were updated after a meeting with no approval to be updated.
Oh,
We voted on it in
So-
a board meeting.
No,
No.
it was voted down 0 to 19
Yep.
to change meetings to Mondays.
Yep.
see, I thought I remembered that. I was like, oh, we're doing
And
that. But then,
after the
but then when you
last-
said it, I was like, oh, but maybe we did change that.
After the last questioning, Derek and I started digging because nobody could seem to remember that that had happened. And we're like, but the minutes or the board rules say it. It says it. It's every,
Right.
those got updated and posted.
But you couldn't find,
There was no, I found the vote. It was a 0 to 19
19.
vote. So it shouldn't
I remember
have
it
ever
failing.
been altered.
I
So
remember it failing at one point, but I was
we
thinking.
had to pull all the stuff that's been up for like 2 years down. And then find the most recent unedited version, which we did, and then put those back up.
Oh, boy.
So it's really.
So
just
our
looking
question
at the rules
fixed it
now.
though. At least us question making a schedule, we found out. All right, so, I mean, this is for next year, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
So was
Well,
that the zoning meeting?
I have a question.
Sorry?
Was that the zoning committee meeting or the county board meeting?
It was a zoning committee that we were trying to make our meeting date schedule, and then we thought that we had to change, because you know, it's timed when our meeting has to be so many weeks, days before the county board meeting. And
They usually go Mondays, I think, right?
the county board,
No,
oh, our meetings have been Monday, yeah, but we were saying we were gonna have to shift it if the county board changed to Monday instead of Tuesday. We were gonna have to shift all our dates.
We changed to Mondays.
Yeah, yeah. So I have a question about, if I'm not running, do I come to the April 1st meeting, I assume? Because the new people won't be, the vote
Sworn
isn't
until,
after that, right?
when are they sworn? The 4th?
I thought election was in April.
It's the second Tuesday, first Tuesday in April. So it's like, so I think it's the 4th.
So yeah, I think you would.
So I'd have to
because
come.
you're Still,
I was thinking March is gonna be.
Sorry, Melissa.
So.
That's always the question.
Okay, so has everyone looked at these meeting dates? I want to just make sure, since we have struggled with attendance, just want to make sure that no one has any issues with this, that they know of right now.
And Cheryl put in. Never mind.
So we're meeting the 2nd of January, the 5th of February, the 4th of March, and the 1st of April. And then you'll have a new meeting.
Then I'm assuming too at that committee after the board reorganization, that would be when they have to advertise for an agricultural person
yes,
to fill
yes.
that position.
For then it said for the 2024 season.
Yep.
I could technically apply for that.
Yeah, no, you could.
I'm not going to, but I could. Okay, so we don't need to take any action. This is just for informational purposes only. Please, if you can't make a meeting, I know you guys are already here, so I don't need to tell you this, but But do let me know if you can't make a meeting, just so that I know I still have quorum. All right, so that brings us to manure storage ordinance review and possible action.
So there was a question about the stack.
Unconfined.
Okay, unconfined manure stacks.
Yeah.
I sent out to all 72 counties. And what I put in there is, it looks like this, it just says these are the ones that came back to me. And basically, a majority of them it's in there and it's worded the same way we've got it worded in ours. It only takes effect if it falls using, within I got SWCMA down, but basically it's surface water quality management area, which is within 300 feet, I got inches down here, so let's see. Those 300 feet of a stream or 1,000 feet of a lake. So if their manure stack falls within, unconfined manure stack falls in there, then that's the only way we could.
Then they're supposed to have it.
Right.
Not
We have unconfined, and we'd have to offer them, we have to offer them cost sharing if they're, see, where it gets complicated. We'd have to offer them cost sharing if this was an existing livestock farm. Prior,
Not a new one.
not a new one. So if the farm was there, we'll take Virginia's old place. You know, the old farm. If that farm existed in 2002
As a farm.
farm,
Not just, yeah.
and as a livestock farm, if that facility existed then we can only enforce it with, the state rules say we can only enforce it with cost sharing. So we have to cost share a system.
Meaning we have to give them some money. So we pay 70, they pay 30.
Right, and that would be through state.
In order to enforce them to make them fix their manure storage.
But if this was just a
A new person.
new person that came and there was
Bought land that.
bought land and there was never livestock there, it wasn't livestock prior to 2002, then we could make them fix that without cost sharing. That has to do with the state rules.
So, go ahead. Do you have a question?
So someone's got a stack less than 300 feet from a stream and they are not grandfathered. I mean, you say we have to do cost sharing, fine, but they just move it, right? I mean.
Well, that's a lot of things that we've not had any issues come up. Well, the issues that have come up, they've already, that we know about, they had runoff and they got called, state stepped in, DNR stepped in and said, you have to do something. But we've not had any that we've had to go out and look at.
I guess what I'm saying is, it doesn't sound like a real expensive fix.
Correct.
Okay.
A lot of it is if they just move it out of that area and they, we could go out and talk to them and say, hey, can you think about moving it to here?
Or spread it.
Or spread it, or,
So I have a question. One of the things you originally brought up as a reason to relook at this storage ordinance was our poultry farms we have in the county. Does this, I didn't see anywhere where a poultry farm has to do anything on here.
They are there's chickens are considered, poultry are considered livestock.
Right, yep.
Okay, so there's nothing in here that says a minimum size.
Did we remove the
I
language?
removed. that
Okay,
language.
so that's how we've now roped in. So now anyone who has 13, so someone has 13 chickens, do they fall into this ordinance?
They have one calf. But if it has to be, they have 13 chickens, but they're right around, it doesn't matter. But if they put the manure in a storage thing,
Okay,
a makeshift storage.
or an unconfined stack.
Correct. That's when they fall. But
Okay.
if Steve has 14 chickens running around, it's a chicken coop, I don't care.
Right, because it's not gonna. we're
It's not
worried
a
about
stove, but
contaminating.
a lot of
This
this
is all to protect our water, drinking
Right.
water. And that's the reason why we're having these conversations.
So
We
you
wanna
have,
protect-
but a lot of these poultry operations, they put a little bit of a pit underneath where the chickens are. They would like, if they,
So it's confined, but it's also a pit.
yes,
So,
that's where,
next question, if we approve this manure storage ordinance, are we sending out letters to all the poultry farms to let them know that they now are required to do something? Or how are they gonna know?
That's what we'll have to figure out. I'm not sure if we have any.
Mr. Carroll.
Well, it's more than the three
Right.
parts. I mean, there's other things that have changed too, and how.
Right.
But what you were saying leads to my question on, this number, G4, under the, this extra stuff you sent down under, trying to define the stack.
Yeah, it's no one, okay, that's part of the performance standards. That's where it says
Written by the state.
written by the state.
I understand. I'm just saying that if I'm reading this, it sounds like, regardless of how much storage it is, this is saying that livestock cannot enter into the waters of the state. As in,
Okay,
all these farmers that let their cows shit
Okay.
straight.
if you read the whole thing, it says no unlimited access by livestock to, this is wording from the state. No unlimited access by livestock to waters of the state in a location where high concentrations of animals prevent the maintenance of adequate or self-sustaining vegetative cover.
I read that to mean that if you have too many cows in there, will get water out of the stream and they're
Eroding the
damaging
bank.
against the ordinance. That's a whole different thing than storage of the ordinance. I
Correct.
agree it shouldn't be done, but are we saying that also has to be important?
With cost sharing, if there's an existing.
Whatever. Have we ever had one where we've enforced that?
Actually, we didn't, but the DNR did.
Okay.
Actually, DNR does a lot of enforcement on the state
Say,
standard, on a lot of these state standards, the DNR does a lot of the enforcement.
sure, if they find out.
Well, it's like us, if we
Report
find
it, report it to the DNR.
A lot of times
Other people report it to the DNR.
we had one along Highway 60. It was runoff went actually down by Mark Cooey's, where he lives. There was runoff from an unconfined lot. There was a little bit of a dry run there, stream-like thing, and it was no vegetation. So the state came in and said, I was out there as a liaison, and the state said, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and so we had to monitor it to make sure, we had to check on it, to make sure they did it.
So they came out and said, you have to do it, and then you guys were the ones that had to make sure they did it. It's assumed that if they hadn't done it, you'd had to report back to the DNR and they would
Correct.
have done enforcement. Yeah.
We've had a couple other ones that had to do that. It's been, before we've had a chance to report it to somebody else. These cell phones are wonderful objects.
Neighbors like to talk.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cattle that are in water.
I guess my question is this section you added here, is that going to be referenced by our ordinance and would apply?
It is referenced, that is in the ordinance.
Okay. I didn't see it.
The definitions are in the first.
The definition on the
Pages,
first, and then,
Yeah, so it's on page, well, mine says 33 of 75 is where the definitions are.
gotta find the right place, but the performance standards are listed under section 1-4. And those came right out of, that's the state. Chapter NR 151 of the Administrative Code.
They're also in section 1-2 definitions
Right.
in our ordinance.
And we've had this in, it's not something I added, this was in our last one.
But the technical.
Unconfined manure storage, I'm talking about whether they're allowed to be in a stream or a water of the state or not.
Right, that's what's listed, it's listed under, in the actual ordinance, it's page 7. Under G, it's but that's what I highlighted there.
Oh, I see it now.
Yep,
Good.
so I don't know if you want to look at it, we approve at the January meeting, take the January county board, or
I don't know, committee, what do you think? We've certainly beat this one to death. If you have any more questions about it?
I think we've improved it. We beat it to death. I'd say let's move it on.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a question. I don't know if you need to work, who you need to work with. I do think we need to let people know because you've removed the number of livestock required, so that affects a lot of different people. in the
Besides,
county. Yeah,
And I
so
don't
I
know
don't know how
exactly,
we publicize this to make sure that, and I do have one question. Should we have any language about allowing people time to come into compliance? Because we're changing an ordinance right now and they, you know,
my understanding is that technically it starts, it starts that date of, I mean, you're like, whenever.
when we
you-
approve it, right? But do we want to give them a grace period to give them time to come into compliance?
Madam Chair, that
Yes.
would be my question is, are you gonna grandfather pre-existing facilities in? Because if you're not, then
We have to have,
I would say you're gonna have to have a pretty substantial grace
Grace
period.
period.
And how is it going to then, who's gonna go out and inspect all of the facilities that are already in existence to ensure that they come into compliance? So those are all things
Yeah.
that are coming around.
It
my brain.
usually, what the state says that, anything new after the date of the ordinance. And that's what we've done. We did the ordinance
Okay.
in 99, we did it in 08.
so we don't have to make anyone who already has a poultry barn change.
Correct. Anything new.
Okay, and a new one being built, how would they know that the ordinance now includes them?
When they look at the ordinance.
Yeah, and if they're in a zone township,
They would
No,
come
the-
out, so you would,
well, no,
We have contacted them before when we had
Yeah.
when we started the large chicken things. And we said, really? They don't need to comply? And she said, no, they don't.
because they're under the
So-
size limit.
Yeah, that's
and they
because-
have to do a cubic feet.
Yeah.
or- Yeah,
it's because it takes a lot of chickens to make one animal unit.
it does.
Yes. So that's
Lots of
why,
chickens to
Why-
make one
if-
animal unit.
If we issue large permits again.
then-
Okay,
so that's how big was zoning will help.
that makes me feel better. I mean, it doesn't help, I mean, I wish we could do something about the poultry farms not necessarily doing what they should be doing.
And I don't know if they are or not.
Maybe we need to just send them information saying, do you know that their state standards say this? And technically, they have to comply with NR 151 regardless of our zoning
Yeah,
or our ordinances.
and there was one person that came in, oh man, that was this summer or something like that. And I said, right now you don't have to, but if you build another one, we're looking at updating the ordinance and you would have to come.
Is this something you could do an education for? Because I know in the past you've talked about doing certain sessions of education and then.
And like, yeah, I don't know, and my question is how we get the word out. I mean, I could put it on social media and
We could
stuff.
do a press release, we could put it on the
radio.
website.
Radio.
Yeah,
I think we should just go on the radio and talk about the manure storage ordinance. I mean, it's boring, but I think that people might be interested to know what our,
Even if it's just a short, half,
yeah,
I think, you just use all the available methods.
methods.
and get the word out to like the.
Yeah. All right, so I would entertain a motion if we want to take action on this
I'll make a motion.
to approve it as with the conditions that we've had. All right, a second by Carol. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, let's take it to county board. Move forward. All right, cost share agreement. This is a well abandonment, right?
Yep, a person came in and wants to do well abandonment, so we got the money to use, so.
Yeah, this
the
is
time-
good.
This is the time of year, we have quite a few. We may have a couple that are in the process and we may sign the contract because we have to use the money for this year, but then we'll just bring it back to the January meeting.
We're gonna use all our cost share money this year?
I think so. I haven't,
Awesome. So he's really getting up to speed then. Derek is really getting up to speed. All right, so we have before us a cost sharing agreement for well abandonment, which this means that they will do it properly and put, what is it called? The stuff they.
Vet night.
Vet night down in there. So
with
that,
all the,
so you don't have a direct pull to our drinking water from an old well. Or someone could fall in a well last year. All right, I will entertain a motion. Like to take action.
I'll make a motion to approve the cost share contract.
All right, motion by
I'll
Fleming.
second.
Second by Turk. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Oh, yes.
Just curious, just for my information, what causes people? Why
90% of the time now it's because they drill a new well.
they would?
You've got a well on your property. your well goes bad, your well
Goes bad.
goes bad, something, when you have to drill a new well.
There were wells that have actually gone bad.
Right.
Like they can't clear the nitrates or they can't clear the bacteria.
Or the pump, my parents had one where they were pulling the pump up and the pump got stuck.
Oh, okay,
So,
got it.
And it's good if they do this. Some people just abandon it. They've gotten a lot better. I think the well drillers have gotten pretty good about making sure to let landowners know to go ahead and abandon that well. So, all right, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That brings us to 2024 land information grant application.
So it's time to apply for the new grant for 2024 and 2025. I believe I put that resolution in your folder with the amounts in there. I will point out that because we're supposed to be able to keep retained fees and we thought we were gonna get all this extra money, they actually lowered us $60,000 to make up for those retained fees that don't know how much we're gonna get until they're.
And the retained fees are through the Register of Deeds
Yes.
office, correct?
And they still have to meet all the land information grant requirements, so this is for 2024 and 2025.
And you have it written, correct? All the projects that we're gonna do?
Yes, I have it in, I did not bring the grant application, so if anybody wants to see it. We do have the new aerial flyovers, we're doing a better resolution, so 68,000 of that money goes to the new flyovers.
Because we approved that at
Yes,
this committee 6 to 8 months ago, something like that.
yes.
Yeah,
And then with the contract with LSA to do more GIS really sucks up the remainder of it. And then the $1,000 is always there's always $1,000 for education in there.
and training.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's really getting ate up by a large portion of the flyover
And this is a grant we do
every year. Yeah, so there are 2-year grants and then they overlap by a year.
okay,
You tell them it would be 60,000 less.
yeah.
It's-
Mr. Carroll,
The report.
all right, I have a motion. Second. All right, any other discussion on the land information grant?
Discussion.
Yes,
Wonder if administrator, this revenue matches with your assumptions for the budget?
Well, it's less than what we were assuming.
but we don't know what we'll
But
be
we
getting
don't
in the
know.
receipts.
No.
Whereas-
And if the legislation passes and those fees from Sue's office, we may actually see an increase. They're petitioning for an increase of those fees that we actually get to retain to match the statutory 50% as it used to be. So we
Yeah, they're
actually,
talking to us about
even
that.
though
Yeah.
right now we've got less, we could potentially see more.
I mean, I think they're doing that in hoping in reaction, they're gonna get one, and so they're offsetting the other.
Right. So that's kind of where it's at. It's up in the air, but I do know it does have bipartisan support. So that's good. And I have been watching it. For us, it would be about an additional, I think, about 18,000 in the first year. And then, it increased after that. So, and with Fiddler coming, I think we'll see some additional recording that way that may help with our transfer fees too.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. All right, that brings us to the Esri license purchase.
All right. Last meeting, I have a person that's going to be replacing me for the Ithaca zoning administrator.
Oh, really?
So it's going to be Mary Walden, the one who we just rezoned property today.
Oh, okay.
She'll start January.
So we won't get to see your lovely face at,
Well, unless I come with her the first time. You might want me to, she says. So we'll see.
all right, well, thank you for coming, Virginia. All right, so we are to the Esri.
So this is Barb online. We have approved a grant with NG 911 for the GIS. Part of that was Esri licensing. So now we have to purchase the ESRI licensing. Our current ESRI licensing will expire very soon in December. So it's rather urgent that we get this passed through into county board in December. The cost is going up significantly. It was 8,100 previously. We've gone to 37,000. It is a grant covered expense, but it's very important to note that this now covers all departments and their access to GIS, which will effectively make NG 911 more robust and able to work across departments. So one license, instead of being assigned to a specific computer, can be shared with MIS, with the Sheriff's Department, with emergency management. Because we don't all need one specific license, we can share it. The ability to do that costs more money. The other thing is, we just got notification from ESRI last week that they are discontinuing their previous licensing model, and they will be going strictly to this model. So even if we weren't going to do it to share and to make things stronger for our GIS across the county, we wouldn't have a choice.
So Barb, this is covered by the grant for
Mhm.
2023 or in 2024 as well, or do we know?
Both
did?
were,
I
yes.
thought so. Okay,
Mhm.
all right. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll
Make a motion.
Okay, motion by Turk, second by Fleming. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Carroll?
Are the ability to share the license, is this just one seat or can two at the same time, or is it strictly one at a time?
Actually, John's doing a great job helping me out here. There are several different licensing that we have. We have 4 of the concurrent ones. Now, keep in mind that some of these licenses are going to be specific to zoning because they do require having it open all day, every day. The rest of them can be shared. When we look at the spatial analyst, some of those are specific to zoning. So I don't want to say that it is all shared, but a lot of it is shared.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question
Yeah.
as well. Barb, when you said this was covered by grant, is it 100% covered?
There is a 10% cost share, and that was originally in zoning's budget for their the 10%, and we could do it there, or we can take it out of MIS. We certainly have that match.
Thank you.
It's a minimal amount.
I was thinking we had any kind of match for that grant. No. Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Send that to county board. That brings us to Catalyst Permit Database Contract.
So
It's you.
I'll talk about the technical, and then I'm going to let Candace talk about some of this too. Our current database that we're using is one that Marilyn Peckham did in 2002. It is quite ancient, and although it served its purpose for many years, we've outgrown it. And we contacted several counties around us. They're all in the same kind of boat, I'd like to say. Many of them are working on spreadsheets or databases that they're quite frankly outgrowing, and we're going to have to look for another solution. We just signed on with Catalyst for our treasurer because GCS is changing. And so going with Catalyst made a lot of sense because we can share the data that's in our old GCS world so that the data is consistent. We aren't re-entering data. The current data that's in this database, we have found significant problems with consistency, and we don't want to have that inconsistent data present. We want to make sure it's clean and strong throughout. So by using the same base data, we don't have the errors made by re-entering data when we do a permit. The base cost for the software every year will be $13,500. There is an installation fee with this, so the first year it does cost more. Total is $21,750. I'm gonna let Candace speak a little bit on the costs and how we had to cover those.
Okay, well, so we have, Cheryl, you're gonna take some of this out of yours, correct? And then the rest of it is going to come out of Barb's. Is that right, Barb? Am I getting that backwards?
I think that we had talked about salaries that weren't utilized.
The salaries that were not utilized for just this year.
No, I
Right.
love taking any money out of anything.
Yes, we talked about it when we met last week. We talked about the fact that we're not paying Mike's salary, so that there was additional
Oh, so
money
it's
left in the budget.
I didn't, me.
You and I and Barb met with Derek.
It wasn't last week. It was a couple weeks ago.
Oh, a couple.
Yeah.
Okay,
Time.
I know, it's all.
So it's not coming out of, so it'd be coming out of unused salaries.
For this initial, and then we'll work it into the budget each year going forward for the 13.5.
And so Barb, what were you saying about data being clean? So would it take our current data and bring it into the system so all of the information would be there, or what would
It will have our current data that is in the treasurers and our tax roll data will be there. So yes, it's already got all of that built in.
What about the zoning information and stuff?
The old database, I do not feel we want to bring that forward. We've seen some errors in there that I don't think it would be a good idea to bring that data forward. I think that you keep it, the old system for historical data, you draw a line in the sand and say, as of this date, we moved to Catalyst. And that's what we've done with our EHRs and several other implementation programs, and it does work. It's inconvenient for the first year or two. After that, you just move into the new program with historical data backed up.
And to piggyback off of that, one of the examples that we can think of in recent history is Darby Blakely, because there was data that was there that sent his letter for the meeting
To the
That was pulled out of GCS, that was the address.
to a wrong place. So, that's where we want to make sure that the data is accurate, and it may mean, yep, we're going to have to double check the data and re-enter it, but at least then we know that the data is going into the new system accurately and correctly. So that's one that came to my mind right away, because that turned into a big ruckus, and it was nobody's fault per se. You're trusting the system that you have. And in that case, it wasn't accurate.
So that data that pulls for the 300 feet pulls out of GCS, or pulls out of the tax database, not mine. So you build the query and then it pulls off GCS stuff. And so the
wrong address was in the
tax database.
the tax database, not the zoning database.
Right.
Well, but again, we don't want to pull any old data. We want to put all new data in, so we know that the data that's going in is accurate, one way or the other.
Otherwise, right, you're going to have conflicting data in there, and that's going to be a mess to clean up.
My question is, I sit next to, right next to her office, and almost every day, somebody comes in for a building permit. She has to go back and she has to look at what was permitted before to see if there was a permit for existing buildings or whatever, I guess. And it may be something that was done 10 years ago. She still has to go back and get it. So I guess my question is, just sitting next to her and listening to it, that database, you still have to be doing that. She'd be the new database and look at the old database as far as what was permitted in the past on those parcels.
So one example.
And that's going to be common. If we look at the sheriff's department, they had a database that was 30 years old. It was called Arbase, and they had to continually go back and reference it. There just wasn't support for that database, and we couldn't bring that data forward. So that was the option they utilized.
And I anticipate that same thing when we transition into a new finance system and a new payroll system. We're going to have to maintain our base data, because to move all of that in, not only is it expensive, but it may not be accurate. And so again, we're going to basically rebuild and then reference when we need to. And then, you know, at that point, you can upload data, or you can put data in that you feel like you need to have there. So if Cheryl has to go back and find a permit from whatever, well, then there should be a way where she can generate that and upload it then. And so that you have that historical.
So you're gonna make sure that is possible, that you can upload? So-
I don't know, you could put it in the notes field, but I don't know that you would upload the previous permits, no.
Actually, I did talk to the Catalyst support, I think it was Jackie, in an email, and they can transfer data by CSV, and
Yeah.
they can even drag the permits.
But it costs money.
Yes,
Yeah,
it costs
That's the
money.
problem.
Yep.
Well, she never gave us a quote.
Quote, yeah. So,
Because,
go ahead, Barb.
no, well, the problem was that Cheryl was supposed to supply with an amount of data, and I don't know that she ever got that.
What data? Nobody told me to supply data.
Yep, there was an email back.
Saying I was supposed to supply what data?
The amount of data that she'd be importing.
So,
Recall it, I'm not sure what you mean.
so apart from that part of it, I just have one question about, I mean, I get that because the treasurer is using this, I think it makes sense that we would go with the same business, but I don't know. I mean, we've been trying to make sure we do RFPs and bids, you know, to be prudent, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. Are we okay with not having gotten bids from anywhere else? Committee, I'm asking the committee this question. If we're okay with the logic that because the treasurer is already using this, that we don't feel that we would need to get quotes from other companies for similar types of products. Mr. Carroll?
I guess I'm not clear on who all the other different users of the information need to coordinate, but it sounds like we're not getting any benefit from migrating old data, so maybe the fewer vendors, the better.
I mean, I'm never opposed to that, but I'm only bringing it up because we've had many discussions at this committee about wanting to make sure that we do process, which it says we're supposed to do RFPs unless there's a good reason. I mean, I do think one of the things that I think has gotten us in trouble in the past, and I think Barb, will definitely agree with this, is that, you know, this department has this product doing this, and this one has the similar product doing something just slightly different, but they could, you know, and having all these different vendors with all these different expiration dates and things like that, you know, having to update all this different software is not efficient. But I just wanted to bring it up just to make sure that we're okay with moving forward if we do move forward, not having gone.
And having a different data set, again, is going to lead back to the same position that we're in now.
When the treasurer decided to go with this product, did they do an RFP process for that?
So what happened with the treasurer is they were told by GCS that GCS is simply not doing this product anymore, and there weren't a lot of other choices out there.
Okay, so they didn't.
I believe they looked at, and we can verify this with Jeff, I hate to speak for him, I believe that we demoed 2 products, and I would have to go back to my notes. The other product was significantly more expensive and not as user-friendly, and so there wasn't a lot of choices. When we looked at those, we went, nope, the other one doesn't make sense, this one did, and that's where we went.
Okay. So at least there was a process where other vendors were considered. Okay.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, Kathy,
okay,
go
from my understanding, there'll be 2 databases. Zoning will have 2 databases. They'll have the old one She'll still have to go back and look at the old one. And there'll be the new one, and can she, the other question, I'm not sure if Barb quite answered it. So if Steve Carroll has a permit he got in, say, 2008 for building a shed. I'm just throwing it out there. Now he comes in to build a second shed. She'll have to look at the old database to see if that's been done, if there was a permit on that one or when that was done. Can she enter that information somewhere on the new one? So
Oh, right, so that you would have, so moving forward, that property would have all of its information
under the same.
database. That does, yeah, that is a good question.
Yeah,
Right, you can make historical notes, yes.
Historical notes or an actual record is created?
I don't want to speak to that exact answer without verifying with Jackie, the vendor, because I'm not 100%.
It makes, because otherwise you'll be going back to that other database forever.
Well, not really forever.
Well,
No, there's a potential, but again, you'd have to do that for, I mean, many other departments have to do that too. I mean, that's part of kind of the give and take. Is the benefit greater than not?
inconvenience.
Right, and I think that's something that you always have to weigh when you're doing this. And what is the cost to have that data transitioned in, and then how much of it is inaccurate that is going to then have to be corrected, and are you gonna know that it needs to be corrected? So I think there's a lot of moving pieces to this, and it's where is the greatest bang for your buck and what makes the most sense. Yes, is it a little bit inconvenient that you've got to search here to look it up, to put in information there?
So,
Yeah, but
so how many mistakes do you, so how, I'm struggling with us not importing this data because we assume there's a lot of mistakes. Well, shouldn't we, so how are we gonna assume that there's no mistakes made in the new database? I mean, like, we think the mistakes were made because of the way that database is used, or?
Barb, is it the importing of the data from the other systems? Is that really where the disconnect was?
Data can get corrupt.
No.
Process?
Or,
Okay, one of the things that we're seeing is there's not consistency. So when I look at the billing address and the physical address, they're not the same. They're not like street. And I wish that Jason was close by because he has more exact on this. There is, John, maybe you can talk to this as well. When we have Pine View Lane, was it? Or Pine, I know it's Pine Tree Lane. Do you know what I'm talking about, John?
Yeah, I don't know for sure what the database, that was across.
No, well, it was though, because when we went back to that database, the address, the billing address, and then the property address weren't even the same on the same invoice.
I don't know about that, but I don't know the database. I do know that when I talked to Muddy, the address was listed, the street name was listed differently in GCS and differently in the database, so he didn't know which was correct. So that had to be resolved by somebody actually driving out and physically looking at the townships, and it ended up being right on GCS. He doesn't know when that happened, but it wait for it.
And so it was things,
Some of the relationships in the tables are funky too, and Jason can speak more to that. We found discrepancies in there.
So on day one, this database would just be empty. And then as someone comes in and wants a new zoning petition, then something would get entered? Is that what happens?
well, it's gonna have all of our taxpayers' information in there.
So
All of their current property in there. It's not empty.
it's importing from the treasurer's office, that information.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and we want to change this to this database because the old database doesn't do what we want it to do? Or,
well, there's
This
that,
will track, yep, oh, go ahead, Candace.
there's that, but also we talked about increased accountability,
okay,
increased assurances. This gives us that. This
it
is
has more functions than the previous, or what we're
yes.
currently using. Okay. Any other questions, committee? Does someone want to make a motion, one way or the other, on what we want to do here?
I'll make a motion.
What are you making the motion to do?
To accept to include the resolution as written.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Carol. Any other discussion? And just to clarify, so this is getting paid for of unspent
Yes.
salaries
For the first.
for the first year, and then
After
it'll be
that, then
budgeted.
we'll work it into the budget.
Okay, because I think it could also be we redo the grant for 2025, right, Cheryl, or something?
When we redo the land information plan, we could.
We could put it in the plan, and then it could be covered under the land information grant
Yes.
moving forward if it needed to be.
And so we could bring it to the committee and then have them decide their priorities.
Council.
Right,
Council.
land information council, right, okay. All right, any other discussion on this item? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right, have your approval. Oh, dark skies pamphlet. So pretty. So-
I'm sorry, Dave, I wasn't able to put this online. I can send you one, or if you come to the courthouse sometime, I can give you one.
Okay,
Send it
that'd
to
be fine,
PDF.
thanks.
It's already a PDF. She has a PDF.
No, PDF.
You can make it a PDF. Okay. I'm sure you can.
I looked at it, it comes in as a PGN and PNG form.
Oh, that's okay. That would work too.
Oops.
That would work. Yeah, that would work. So I think we didn't change anything from the last, as far as the text. It was really just getting, the images better. I think Kathy did a great job of finding some high quality images. So this was just for informational purposes. I don't know, so the question, I guess there is a question for the committee in that, do we want to instruct? What do we want to do with these? We could, if, one, we would need to allocate some money in order to make copies of them, either whether we do a Vistaprint or print them ourselves, they still color costs quite a bit. So I think maybe we need to, moving forward, we should make sure that there's a little money in the budget for any kind of educational materials for our citizens. Pretty cool. I'm excited. I think these could be, anytime there's new building permits, these could be given out for people who are building new buildings. We could at some point, if we wanted to, if there ever was extra available funds, we could send them out with the tax bills once, just for everyone, just so that the whole county has information. But that would require, there's how many tax bills go, it's a lot. So it would cost, I think these things end up costing, well, I don't know. I got 1,000 pamphlets made. I want to say they were only a couple $100 for 1,000. No, it was like $100 and some dollars. So, you can get, it could be a one-time expense, but anyway, at this point, we don't have any funds allocated for, right? Your budget doesn't have any room for, yeah.
Neither budget.
Well, yeah. So since we just spent 21,000 of anything that might have been left in zoning. So, but it's done and we have it, and so we can, and certainly if people call and ask, we can give them the information, yes. And it can be put on our website as a PDF. That's easy, that's free. So that should be done. It could go on the zoning one, it could go on both land conservation. Mr. Carroll?
I don't know how many building permits get filed, but I would think just handing one to each, that's so small, I can't believe we need to worry about funding that. That's almost like.
We should be able to do that right away. How many building permits do you?
Anywhere from 80 to 150.
A year?
Yeah.
That's a good place to start. I suppose we could make a donation. Let you buy papers. Maybe I'll make some copies. I'll make a parting gift for you. I'll order some pamphlets for you.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, Mr. Turk.
Might there be a possibility of exploring some partnership with like utility companies or anybody like that that might have an interest in distributing this either with utility bills or sponsoring part of the cost for us to make copies of it or something?
That's a great idea. Kathy, would you mind? Or I could
No,
too.
I could, well, we've got
Like
REC.
REC and Alliant would be the other one, but REC is probably easier because it's got a local, I don't know who you
And
get at Alliant.
even like.
And even
the
city utilities in Richland Center, yeah.
Yeah, Richland Center.
You know, if they were willing to send it out, they might even, if we sent them the file, they might even do some printing themselves or something.
I got a few neighbors that I'd like to just stick them in their mailbox.
And put it on their website.
Mhm.
Yeah, they could put it on their websites too, just, yeah, because I mean, it's really good information, and I think a lot of people are just not aware of how bad
Carry
some of their
with my
lighting.
neighbor, I'll tell you that.
I got 2 neighbors that have like 3 yard lights that just blare, it's like, oh my God, people. Okay. That brings us to public comment. Is there anyone? Would anyone like to make public comment? I don't know who's online. All right, that brings us to future agenda items. So we still have the short-term rental thing. But in the new year, do we want to tackle that? We're close. I think we're really close on it. Yes.
Just this past edition of the Epitaph News out of Viola,
Mhm.
a little note was put out in Vernon County saying that, attention Vernon County vacation lodging rentals. And then they're pointing out, in fact, there's a state law.
You need to be, so yeah, licensed.
So I think we need to keep moving on it.
Yeah. I mean, there's only more and more of them all the time,
Yeah.
so. Okay, so for January, well, let me talk to, for council to make sure, because I think we need him. I think we were to the point where he was reviewing it and the changes that we had made and kind of, because I think we've essentially mostly decided what we wanted to do. And he was reviewing those just to make sure, because we had questions about, you know, our liability if we don't say something like that or whatever, so. All right, so anything else?
I just let you know for the January meeting, I'm planning on taking off the week of between Christmas and New Year's off. And I'll put together, because there'll be a lot of things for the agenda, I'll have it all ready together, and then I'll give it to Cheryl for somebody to send out that week of Christmas, because like I said, I'm gonna be off. So if you have anything that needs to be added, let Cheryl know.
Okay. Anybody else, committee members? All right, so January 2nd would be the next meeting date. If you cannot make it, definitely let me know. All right, so that brings us to adjournment. I think there's no clock in here.
Oh, we gotta get one up.
All right, I would entertain a
I'll make
motion.
a motion to adjourn.
All right, motion by Fleming. Second by Carol. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned.
Surprise.